Welcome to Only the Greatest Podcast, where we explore the vital connection between fitness and success in all areas of life. We are your hosts. I'm Darryl.
My name is Philip.
My name is Shawn.
And our goal is to help you become the greatest version of yourself.
This show is brought to you by our one and only sponsor, which is ourself, OTG Fitness. OTG Fitness is a private personal training gym on the south side of Houston in Webster, Texas. You can learn more by visiting otgfitness.com or searching OTG Fitness on any social media platform.
If you happen to find any value in this show, all we ask is that you leave a quick review and mention specifically what helped you out. If you're listening on YouTube, be sure to like, subscribe, and share with anyone you think may need to hear this.
We're just a couple of guys that found life-changing benefits from fitness, and we want to share that with the world. So every single like, mention, and review really does help us out so much. Help us grow this show and everything OTG is about by sharing with someone today.
Share it with them today.
And tomorrow.
The next day.
Every goddamn day.
And then share with them these gym myths to make sure they're not messing up.
So we're going to dive right into this one. This is Gym Myths V2 or episode 2.
Well, we're following up on nutrition
Following up, yeah.
Gym myths.
So... Ooh. I love
It's kind of scary.
So we had nutrition myths, you're right.
Yeah.
So I guess under the umbrella of the fitness myths.
There you go.
You got nutrition, and this is the gym.
Yeah.
And we got 3 good ones here. We're going to bang these out and give you guys some facts. And that's the main thing. Just the facts. I was going to say, and some like advice, but some of them don't require that.
No, I don't think so. The overall advice is to do what works.
Right. Do what works for you.
Do what works for you. Exactly.
We just talked about that with Denver on the other show.
And I think we can just start here's our topics here. The first one is that these 3 things are myths that are not true. Okay. The first one is that you can't build muscle using higher reps. Mm-hmm. You definitely can. Myth number 2 is that muscle confusion is necessary or that it works at all. It doesn't. And then the last one is that workouts have to be at least 1 hour to be effective. None of these things are true.
Yeah.
They get started for various reasons. We talked, you can refer back to the first episode that we did, the nutrition myths, to hear kind of our take on why these things start.
Yeah.
But let's go ahead and get started here with people that say that you can't build muscle using higher reps.
Right. I think, let me to say where I think that this comes from, and then we'll talk more about, you got hypertrophy versus strength here, which I love. And then most people don't need an actual strength rep range, don't need to be in a strength rep range anyway. But I think that this comes from the idea that if you are stronger, if you lift more weights, you're going to be stronger. And if you're stronger, you're going to lift more weights, which automatically means bigger muscles. And that's not true either. So I think that's kind of where it comes from.
Well,
right? They think if you're not lifting heavy weights, I'm sorry, I didn't translate that. Heavy weights usually translates to lower reps.
Yes.
Lightweight usually translates to higher reps.
Right.
Because it's lighter, you can do more. And so people say, if you're strong, you're going to be doing less reps because you're going to be doing more weight and you're going to have bigger muscles. Mm-hmm. And that's not the case.
It's not always the case for sure.
Right.
You look at like, they're definitely correlated in some way, but my biggest takeaway here that I want to kind of throw out there is one, we need to define what high reps is.
Right.
For one thing. Right. And my definition of high reps, I guess, would be anything more than like 8.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And I usually go with more than like 11 or 12.
Yeah, either way. And there's there's different definitions. Like, Shawn, when I say high reps, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking like, I like to work in like 8 to 12. So 8 to 12.
8 to 12 is perfect. Would you consider that high reps though?
Or anything over that?
10 to 12. 10 to 12 is probably high reps.
Anything more than 10.
Yes.
So 15, 20.
Yeah.
And the science tells us now that maximum hypertrophy, if you don't know what hypertrophy is simply the breakdown and rebuilding of muscle. Let's keep it very simple. Hypertrophy is maximized anywhere between 6 and close to 30 reps.
Yeah.
There's
big ass range.
Yes. It's a huge range. So anything less than that it's not that it doesn't work. It's just that it's not creating as much hypertrophy.
It's not in the ideal range.
It's not in the ideal range. And then another thing here is that I think the reason this particular myth started is because well, as guys, like we want to be strong, right? And the 1 rep max thing is what people, hey, how much you bench?
Yeah.
What's your bench? The ultimate argument
Yeah.
in the fitness industry.
Everyone asks and everyone wants to know the maximum.
Yeah.
They don't care about, hey, what's your max for 8 reps, which is probably more important.
Exactly.
So, for one, the definition of high reps, that varies from person to person. But another big takeaway is if you're a beginner and you're getting started, you need to do more reps to get more practice.
Right.
That's in my opinion, that's the biggest thing. And so for someone for the first couple of years, probably, and I'm sorry if you're listening to this and you've been working out for 2 years, I'm sure you know a lot, but that still falls under the beginner category of someone in the weightlifting world.
I'm glad that you said that. Most people look at me like I'm crazy. I recently have one of my good friends, a guy that I work with, started working out with me at our gym at work. We have a full gym, and he had used to work out back in the day, and he comes back to the gym, and he basically wasn't as strong as he remembered, obviously, because he hadn't been training. But I told him in the beginning, I'm like, hey, these first like several weeks, months, you're going to be practicing lifting. You're out of practice, right? So, you're often not as weak as you think you are when you first start. You just haven't practiced the movement, right? So the movements require practice, and the only way to do it is repetition.
Yep.
Do them consistently over time, and your practice, once your hours of practice or minutes of practice reaches a certain amount, you'll realize that, you didn't necessarily gain a whole bunch of muscle. You just got better technique.
Yeah. And don't forget that when you're getting started, not only do you do get stronger, but you also get better at it. So focus on the fundamentals.
Yeah.
More reps means more practice. Think about it that way for a while, and you will build muscle. And I have just a quick side note of something that I always talk about with people. This conversation usually comes up with our next topic, which is muscle confusion, but it kind of goes hand in hand with both of these. And that's like practice the fundamentals and practice them a lot. And when I was a kid, you guys know I played baseball growing up, right? And I had a coach when I was a kid, when I was very young, maybe 10, 11 years old, something like that. He had a baseball card that he would always show us. Do you guys remember Rafael Palmeiro? Shawn, you know who that is?
I don't follow a lot of sports. So.
That's okay. So Rafael Palmeiro is one of the
Hall of Famer, isn't he?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I don't follow sports like I used to, but you remember he was wrapped up in the steroid thing, to be honest now.
Big leaguer that was real popular for a while.
Yeah. And if he's not in the Hall of Fame, he definitely has the numbers to be, but the steroid thing might have got that messed up. I'm not completely sure, to be honest. But anyways, he is for fact one of the greatest left-handed hitters to ever play the game of baseball. I think he had over 500 home runs, lots of great. He played on the Rangers when we were kids, so here in Texas, But anyways, he had a baseball card, Rafael Palmeiro, one of the greatest left-handed hitters to ever play the game of baseball. And on this baseball card, he was hitting off a tee.
Yeah.
And the point that I'm trying to make here is that even the best people in the world practice the fundamentals, and they do them a lot. And that is
Pkwy was big on that.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. Said he would go in at 3:00 in the morning and shoot free throws for 4 hours, or whatever, right?
Same thing. Yeah. So we find the fundamentals and we do a lot of them. And when you're only doing 2 reps at a time, 3 reps at a time, there's nothing wrong with that if you want to get stronger, test your strength. But you thinking that you can't build muscle with more reps than that is false.
Yeah.
So the point that I'm trying to make here again is that we want to focus on the fundamentals and we want to do a lot of them. And that's a perfect way to segue straight into, or you got
caveat, and then we're going to segue.
Okay, go ahead.
Caveat here is it has to be challenging.
Oh, yes.
Like
Sure.
Very true.
This is just true for me. I could get the 20-pound dumbbells and bench them for 30 reps all day long, 50 reps, maybe even, right? It's not a challenge to me. It has to be challenging for you individually, right? So like whatever weight you're using has to challenge you. It's like, if you get, you can give anybody a 2-pound dumbbell and then curl it all day long, right? And it's likely not going to build muscle, right? But challenge yourself in these rep ranges, right? Science says anywhere from 6 to 30. I think most people use 6 to 12 or 8 to 12.
Yeah, it's a great
typical. That's my normal. 8 to 12 is my range that I usually go for. If I get more than 12, I go up and wait, right? And that's just how I roll. But challenge yourself in those ranges.
Yeah, let's take this time real quick on that. I think that's great. I wish I would have put that into our notes. Let's just talk real quick about RPE and what it is and how to use it. So RPE is pretty much what Darryl's talking about.
Yep.
Is how hard you're pushing yourself.
Right.
RPE. It's
how strenuous it is for you.
That's right. RPE. It's a very simple scale, and it stands for rate of perceived exhaustion, and it is a number that there is equipment that will help you create RPE, but we just use it ourselves. It's a score you can give yourself, rate of perceived exhaustion. So be honest with yourself. It's very simple. It's a scale of 1 to 10. 10 means that if I do another rep, I'm going to pass out, fail. The bar is going to crush me, something along those. That is a 10. So you want to work backwards from 10. And our recommendation is usually about between 7 and 9.
Yeah.
If you're between 7 and you can get results with less than that. But the biggest issue here is that people have a hard time with that perceived thing.
Yeah.
And so they underestimate how much they can do.
Or they tell themselves a story.
Yeah, that's right. So in reality, if your RPE is like 5, like you might give yourself a 7.
Right.
So that's why we like to say between 7 and 9.
Yep.
So if you're between 6 and close to 30 reps at a rate of perceived exhaustion between 7 and 9 on those last couple reps, then you are in a very good spot.
Yeah. I like to think of it as a percentage. So it's 0 to 10, 10 being 100%, 9 being 90%. So are you 90% exhausted? And if you do one more, you're going to get to that 100% of perceived exhaustion, right? Muscle exhaustion, heart rate, everything comes into play here. How hard are you pushing yourself physically? And I like to always shoot for a minimum of 8 and up to a 9. And I don't like to go 10 because you don't want to get hurt, right? So you think of it as a percentage. What percentage am I 80% exhausted at this rep? Am I 90% exhausted?
And that's at the end of the set.
That's at the end of the set, right?
Yeah.
Once you get, because let's say I kick the 100-pound dumbbells back. There's a huge difference in me getting them for 1. And then when I get to that 6th rep, that 1 rep might get me to an RPE of 30%, 3, right? But by the time I get to 6, 7 reps, that's when my RPE is 9 or 10.
Yeah. And I've never thought about it that way, but I think that's a great comparison.
That's how I had to do it in my mind. When I first started learning what it was, one of my coaches was telling me, hey, I need an RPE of at least 9 here. And I knew what it was, but like I had to change it to that in my brain and go, okay, 90%, right? All right, next one.
I think that's great.
Muscle confusion. You must confuse the muscles to make progress. Bullshit is what it is, right?
I mean, Shawn's reaction there pretty much sums it up. This got popular. Let's just be honest. This got popular in the 90s with P90X, early 2000s. And there's definitely nothing wrong with taking this approach.
Sure.
But my issue here is that people thinking that you have to. Because if we go back to the Rafael Palmeiro hitting off a tee situation, if you're constantly trying to confuse your muscles, you're missing out on the fundamentals. Don't forget that exercise is very simple. It revolves down to a few core things, and that's pushing. You can push overhead. You can push horizontally, right? Vertical and horizontal. Pulling, vertical and horizontal. You can squat, right? Which is a knee dominant movement on the lower body. Hip hinge, which is a deadlift. Yeah, hip dominant. And beyond that, you have your core rotations, and it's pretty simple.
Calves, forearms.
So everything, but they're all lower body pushing.
Right.
They're pulling. So it's very simple things. Everything in exercise revolves around these few things. The benefit to quote unquote muscle confusion is keeping you from getting bored.
Right.
And that is important.
So I think what you're strumming on here, Phil, and we don't have to stay on this too long because I think we're getting the point across. It is important, but you can be in shape and do a different workout every single day. And you can be fit. Now, we're not saying that you're not going to be in shape if you confuse your muscles, right? But it's not required to be fit or in shape to do a different exercise every day or every week or whatever. And I think something that goes along with this that I want to make sure I say while I'm thinking about it, soreness is not a direct indicator of positive, I guess, of growth, right? Of positive progress in the right direction. Like people think if they're not sore, then their workout wasn't effective. And that's just not the case.
Not true.
Right? It's not true. And that kind of goes along. People think, because when you confuse your muscles, you're likely going to be more sore.
Yeah, you do something different.
If I go do something completely different, because I've been doing the same training and cardio for years, mostly the core of my, if I change that up and do something, if I go run sprints, which I don't sprint usually, I'll be sore as shit the next day.
Yeah.
You know, that's just one example.
It's a different stimulus.
Yeah.
I had a situation where like I was telling someone, like you said, you know, I work out and I do the exact same thing. I told someone once, I was like, yeah, I do like the same 3 or 4 movements like over and over again. And they were like appalled. They were like, you're not confusing the muscle?
Yeah.
And I was just like, no, I'm not. I was like, I'm going and I'm doing the same thing and just kind of like fundamentally building on that. And, you know, every now and then it's like, I'll branch out and do something different, but they were just like clutching their pearls. Like, what are you talking about? You're not confusing
was
the
this
muscle.
person jacked?
No.
So if Chris Bumstead came to me and said, you got to confuse the muscle, I'd go, oh, no, okay, maybe. You know, this guy's, I mean, look at this guy. He's got the prettiest physique of all time. Don't at me. It's the prettiest one. And, but sorry.
Did y'all see that the memes of confusing the muscle that were going around for a while? Like someone will start off and they're like doing like curls and they're doing like 2 sets of curls and then they just drop it out of nowhere and they just hop on like bench press and just cranking it out. And
gotta confuse them.
You gotta confuse the muscle.
No, I've not seen that, but it.
And let's not forget that last thing, and we'll move on to the next one. If you're always doing something different and confusing the muscles, it's very hard to track your progress.
Yes.
So if you do the same exercises week in and week out for 6 months, you're going to be able to track, okay, in the beginning, I was doing the 70s for 6 reps, and now I push the 90s for that same 6 reps, right? That just one example, right? So it's very hard to track. So, and I think for me, tracking is very key. Tracking keeps me motivated because, oh man, I'm moving in the right direction. Or I can look at it and go, man, this isn't working. I've been doing this for 3 months and I haven't even gained a rep or weight, right? On whatever movement this is. So I either need to quit being a sissy and step my game up or switch it, try something else, you know, and it's just going to be hard to know how good of progress you're making.
Yeah. And a really good point that I want to make here on this same exact time. I was just speaking with someone at the gym the other day about this. I've worked with a lot of different people, right? And I like to mix it up a little bit. And I see a lot of people like to mix it up a little bit as well. But if you mix it up a little bit, then you're probably doing fine. And then the other thing though, that I want to make a point here is that progress is fun. If you're worried about getting bored doing this quote unquote same stuff all the time, there ain't nothing bored about progress.
Yeah,
there ain't boring about progress.
So this goes back to one of my favorite sayings: winning is more fun than fun is fun.
Yeah.
So if you're making progress towards your goals, you're winning.
Yes.
That is more fun than
muscle confusion.
Than muscle confusion, right? Than the fun of confusing the muscle.
So my recommendation here is if you feel like you get bored easily doing the same stuff, even if you're progressing, which trust me, you probably won't be if you're moving up and you see you're starting to look different. You're grabbing 50-pound dumbbells where 3 months ago you were grabbing 40 and now, next thing you know, it's 60 and you're working your way up. Stick with the fundamentals, right? Do the basics. And then after that, go mix it up. Have fun. Do whatever confusing thing that you want to do. You know what I mean? Get confused or whatever. Yeah. But get confused. Yeah,
confused.
Do the fundamentals first, right? Yeah. Get the fundamentals out of the way, and then go confuse your muscles.
I like it. Next one. Workouts have to be at least 1 hour, and I think we can change this up to say
it can be any.
Most people think the longer the better.
Right.
If your workout's less than an hour, you didn't do enough work. If you don't hit X amount of time, it has to be, if you do 8-hour arms, it's the best arm day versus, 30-minute arms. So I love this first bullet point, and it's very simple that Phil put here. Frequency is better than duration. So if I do 8 hours of arms every Sunday versus if I train arms 3 times a week, or, you know, well, okay, we're going to get in directly or indirectly. Making sure that you're working out consistently is better than making sure you're working out longer when you do work out.
Right. The analogy that I always use is 4 days a week for 30 minutes is better than twice a week for an hour.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So that's just, it's very simple math, right? There's nothing super complex about that.
That's what I was trying to get at with the 8 hour.
I'm trying to keep it. Yeah. I found, this is how I found to keep it simple.
Yeah.
It's a total of 2 hours a week either way, but just trust me when I tell you that 4 times a week is better than twice a week. The frequency is going to be better. And then also what I've learned, and actually Stan Efferding taught me this one with the 10-minute walks thing. It's often easier to do shorter durations than it is to do longer durations. Right. So like he talks about the 10-minute walks. Well, he says do 3 10-minute walks a day instead of 1 30-minute. Well, we're saying the same thing here. Do 4 30-minute workouts instead of 2 for an hour.
Yeah.
They don't have to be an hour. They don't have to be an hour and a half. Don't let anyone make you feel bad for a shorter period of time. Also, don't convince yourself just because you only have 30 minutes that it's not worth it.
Right.
That's the other thing that I see that we don't.
It's not worth it. I'm going to go do something else.
Exactly.
But also, you know, I'll be realistic. Don't take this as we're telling you can do a 15-minute workout, which if that's all you have time for,
awesome.
Do it.
Do it.
Understand that the amount of calories you can burn and movements that you can make in 15 minutes is not as many as you can do in 30 minutes. Right. So you're not likely going to have the same caloric burn or output in the 15 versus 30. You're definitely not if your effort's the same, if your RP is the same. And so just keep that in mind. We're not telling you you can do 10 minutes a day, but if that's all you got time for,
this is
do
not
your 10 minutes a day.
Great point. This is not an excuse to do less.
Right.
It is more of helping to make sure that you understand that you don't have to do more than you possibly currently have time for.
Right.
Right. If you don't, we're fans of 40 to 45 minutes. That's what we recommend.
That's my typical 40 minutes to 55 minutes.
That seems to be an amount of time where you can get a good warm up, a lot of really hard work in, and it's not too much to interfere with your day.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So you can get in, you can get it
not
done.
Eating up too much time.
And me personally, if I work out for more than an hour, I was probably playing around half the time.
Yeah. That's what I tell myself too. If my workout goes over an hour, my RPE was too low.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Or I was playing on my phone too.
Yeah. I was playing on my phone. I was burning up time jacking around, not doing what I was supposed to be doing. Because I know I can get my 5 to 6 exercises, 3 to 5 sets of each done in that time, no doubt. So make no mistake, your workouts do not have to be at least whatever, right? Put the work in when you have the time to do it, right? If you only got 15 minutes, get it done in 15 minutes. Get something done in 15 minutes, right? If you only got 30, get it done. If you have an hour, maybe use the hour, but it doesn't have to be that.
That's right. Yeah. We want you to do what you can do. Remember, frequency is better than duration, and consistency is the king of all of this.
Consistency over time.
Yes.
You know, so if you're consistent for 2 weeks versus you're consistent for 2 years, right? So consistency over time, right? You're consistent for years at a time. That's the main thing.
Easy.
I love it. Anything else? Shawn, you got anything?
Dude, that's it, man. I think that I don't have anything else to add.
There's definitely more, but these were 3 that really stood out to me.
We're going to do these more often.
Yeah. These are 3 that stood out to me. I want to make sure that no one thinks that using high reps is a waste of time. I want to make sure that no one thinks that if they're not confusing their muscle, they're not making any progress. And I also don't want people to feel like you have to work out for more than an hour at any given time. None of those things are true. Do what you can do. Focus on the fundamentals.
Control the controllables.
Yep. Control what you can control. Do the basics and do a lot of them. Right. And then do them as frequently as you can.
Yeah. Rafael Palmeiro hits off the tee, dude.
Yeah.
One of the greatest of all time.
All right, guys.
All right, let's take us out. Like, subscribe, tell your friends, and put our gym myths. Be your own myth busters. Get in there and try it.
There you go. Nice.
All right, we're out. See y'all later. Gentlemen, that was a banger.